Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, hi, I'm Beth,
And I'm Stainy.
and you're listening to Mixed Politics. Welcome to
Mm-hmm.
episode 13, Officially
Episode 13.
Teenagers.
Yeah, we're in puberty. Podcast puberty.
Yeah, there you go. So you're looking
Yeah.
nice and happy tonight. What are you drinking?
I am drinking, I don't even know what to call it, honestly. There's like pineapple juice and ginger beer, not ginger ale, like ginger beer,
Oh, ginger beer.
Gosling's.
Okay,
Yeah. And
cool.
um and a dark rum and some tequila.
Oh my God,
So
it's a nasty combination.
why is it nasty?
Nasty as in nasty, like Janet Jackson nasty.
What are you drinking?
Nothing with
Janet Jackson
alcohol.
nasty is great though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. No, I'm just drinking some Zevia tonight. No alcohol. I have
Okay.
surgery in 2 days, and so I need to, lay off the alcohol until
I
after
drank
that's
for
over.
two of us last episode. And I
And
don't
you're doing
even
it
know if that was
again.
a good thing. I don't have a choice. You're not drinking, so okay. Turn up.
I know, but we'll still have fun.
All right. What are we talking about tonight, Beth?
What's going on with the labor shortage?
The labor
Some
shortage.
Right. Or should we put in air quotes, labor shortage? Something
Yeah.
that should not be a political issue has been politicized, and the Republicans keep talking about there being a labor shortage because there's a lot of businesses that have positions open, but they're not being filled. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but the truth is,
And
we
I'm
don't
sure we've
really.
we've all seen the memes of like all the businesses with like I guess duct tape or whatever with the notices saying that we don't want to work here for bad wages and we don't want to this that
Right.
and you won't hire us anyways and blah blah
Yep.
blah. And I thought those are hilarious. I started to collect them. I think I got to about 12 of various businesses, and I thought it was very very funny. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like a major paradigm shift in America where
Hmm.
where in terms of labor and the power of laborers. So I'm very excited for
Right.
this time.
I am too.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about a couple of different things that will lead us down that path. There are people on unemployment insurance right now who are being dragged, just utterly dragged by the Republican Party and even some Republican voters that I know. And I think it's because of just sheer ignorance about what unemployment insurance is, how
Mm-hmm.
that relates to the labor market itself, and then also the dignity of choosing your employer. So let's start by talking about what unemployment insurance is. And notice I'm not calling it unemployment benefits, it's
Mm-hmm.
unemployment insurance.
Yeah, because that's the
So
actual name.
that is the actual name. It was created in 1935 as a means to help people who had temporarily lost their jobs. And COVID is a perfect example of that. The last year, so many people lost their jobs because either
Yeah.
businesses were cutting back on staff or they were closing down completely. So the taxes that are collected from employers are paid into this insurance system on behalf of each working person so that we have some means of income if we were to ever lose our jobs through no fault of our own.
Yeah.
And the insurance program is run by the states, and the states can have some flexibility with how much is offered and for how long. But the Federal Department of Labor oversees all 50 states' implementation and operations. Now, there's also what's called extended benefits, which
Mm-hmm.
is at the federal level, and that can be granted above and beyond what the state offers. And that's what happened with COVID. The federal program is offering currently an extra $300 a week on top of the state unemployment that a person would get. And those workers who had their jobs displaced due to the pandemic, it was put in place for that reason through the CARES Act. And so since you and I are in the state of Ohio has a certain amount of money that we would get if we were to file unemployment, but then the federal government is currently giving $300 on top of that, and
Yeah.
that is set to expire in September of this year.
I did
And
notice that, and it was set by the federal government, wasn't it, for it to be expiring in September of this
yes,
year for
yes,
all the states.
Yes,
But
exactly.
apparently, if we want to go the route of, the talking point of some people, states' rights, you know, like I said before, we
Yeah.
live in a country of 50 different countries. So,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, each
even though
state
it was
has the right.
slated, yeah, even though it was slated for September, some states are like, no.
Yeah,
And
that's really what's going on right now. The
yeah,
Republican Party is their talking point is that if a person is getting an extra $300 on top of the normal unemployment insurance, it's disincentivizing those people from getting out and going out and finding a job. So there are some states, all run by Republican governors, who are cutting the federal funding of $300 a week and going back to their regularly scheduled program. And they think that that's going to get people to work faster.
yeah,
So I have a list of the states that, just in case anybody's curious, the states that are dropping the federal funding early prior to the September deadline are Missouri, Iowa, Mississippi, Alaska, Alabama, West Virginia, Idaho, North Dakota, Wyoming, Ohio, Georgia, Utah, Arkansas, South Dakota, Montana, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Arizona. So they think that it's if they drop the insurance, that people will suddenly be like, "Oh, okay, I'll go back to work today."
yeah.
But I think
And
that's a
that's
stupid notion.
that's what has caused this issue to become politicized and
Yes.
is now politics, because now we're having um like legislation, I guess, change from, as we said before, it's supposed to end in September, and now it's
Hmm.
whenever these states decide to do that.
And so I want to really highlight how dumb this is that people are saying, "Oh, if we just drop their unemployment, they'll get back to work early." The state unemployment insurance is just that. It's
Mm-hmm.
insurance that we all pay into. So we have insurance policies if we drive a car. That's to make sure that we're covered if there's a catastrophic event of an accident or something. So we all pay into it. And now people are suggesting that we shouldn't be able to leverage that. And it's wrong for us to leverage something we've paid into. A person
Yeah.
who hasn't worked can't pay into it, therefore they can't draw on it. So this is really working people who have paid into it that are saying, okay, I'm going to take this time, X amount of time to find a job. So for people to say, oh, all these people are on unemployment are lazy and too picky and they just need to take the first damn job that's available, that's extremely insensitive for
Yeah.
multiple reasons. It's dehumanizing to the people who are taking time to seek a job that reflects their value and their worth.
In their
And it
worth.
also, yeah, and it also removes the ability for people to have a choice in where they want to work. And conservatives are usually all about people having their own choice,
Their own
free
choice.
market. Yeah, free market.
Oh,
And
wait, wait,
here,
wait, wait, wait. Your own choice, except for when it's a woman and her womb.
there you go.
We
There's the
got
one
it.
exception.
All
Well,
right.
now here's the
Got it.
second exception. They say when it comes to a job, you have to take whatever's available. You can't have a choice in where you want to work.
Yeah.
So saying that people should have to fill whatever positions available just because it's there is like saying that you want to force people to work at a particular place without consent. And I'm all about consent in
Okay.
everything. And
All
I don't
right.
want anybody to be forcing me to work at a place just because it's available. I want to have some choice and I want to have some thought going into that. So
Yeah.
applying for jobs is sort of like dating. I think that you should have standards. If you just say yes to every opportunity that comes to you, things probably are not going to end up well for you. You could end up abused, sick, dead, broke, whatever.
So I saw a meme recently, and I don't remember if I've sent it to you or posted it, but it was a cartoon, like a 4 panel cartoon that said, this guy's looking for a job, and the employer or the HR is just like, well, we really like your resume or whatever. What are your salary expectations? And so this person has like divided up their salary expectations into like 3 parts, where it was like, one was like, if I'm doing the bare minimum and you expect the bare minimum, this is what I expect to be paid. In the middle was like, I'll do a little bit more or whatever, I'll take a little less breaks, I'll do, a little overtime or whatever if you'll pay me this much. And like if you want to get all of these things where I stay overnight and I work on weekends and you have my personal cell phone number and whatever, then you got to pay me this much. So
Mm-hmm.
here's what they are, and it's like a tiered system. I hope I can find it
Yeah.
where I can put it up. But they were just like, well, here it is. You choose which tier you want, employer. And I think that's
Yes.
kind of where America is moving towards. Not necessarily exactly as that cartoon shows, but where people are just like, I know my worth. Like, you
Yes.
can't call me into work on the weekends because fuck you.
Yeah. I think
Simple as that.
we have to have a little bit of a give and take when it comes to employment, and that's what
Hmm.
everybody should expect. So it seems like businesses and some people who are have bought into the business propaganda is they're acting like a business is entitled to have people busting down their doors and wanting to come work for them,
Yeah.
and that lacks a lot of self-reflection. So there are out some business owners and some of my friends who have work in an establishment that has open positions, and they're frustrated because they're having to pick up extra shifts and nobody's applying for those jobs. They're all on social media blasting people right now, saying if you're on unemployment, you're lazy and you're selfish because we have jobs open, come work for us. Okay, that's not exactly the way to entice people to come work for you,
No,
because it kind of
it's
sounds like a
not.
toxic environment. But far be it from a potential employee to pay attention to the job posting itself. This is something I posted on Facebook recently, and I had friends who were thanking me for speaking out because they have been on unemployment sometime within the past year, and they're seeing all this narrative on social media and in the right wing media saying that people who are on unemployment are lazy and selfish. These people work really hard. They work so hard. And I know that they're not lazy. I know that they're not being selfish, but they know their worth and they're not finding something out there that matches what their ethics and morals are.
What really pisses me off about this whole you're on unemployment, so that's why you're kind of like not looking for a job. A number of states and a majority of states, it's over 25, require that you be actively looking for a job to receive
Yes.
unemployment benefits. And you have to prove that you are actively looking for a job. And you have to say,
Yes.
why didn't you get this job? Or why were you turned down? Or why did you refuse this job for you to
Hmm.
get the benefits this week or this month or whatever? And the next thing is, I would like to reiterate what you were talking about from the jump. This is unemployment insurance. This is
Yes.
money that you have paid into a system, a pool, if you wish,
Hmm.
while you were employed, while you were working, and it's been racking up and stacking up. And it is for the purposes of keeping you afloat when you have lost employment to no reason or cause of your own.
Yes.
So, let me tell you something, Beth. I'll give you a personal example. I lost my job however many years ago, about 6 months after Trump became president, because I was working through a service that was government granted. Like, we got grants from the government, and that's how we paid our employees. And I was
I
working with
remember. Hmm.
yeah, I was working with refugees, etc. And a lot of people, because I never went on social media and said, oh, I'm fine or I'm not fine or whatever, because I keep my business personal. They thought like I was good, and I wasn't. Like, I lost my job because the White House sent a letter to our agency saying that the grant funds will be stopped because of this whole Muslim ban, and we've reduced the number of refugees we're intaking per year from 145,000 to 35,000. So
Hmm.
a whole organization got shut down, an organization called World Relief. They would intake the refugees and then put them in other different agencies to get them placed and whatever. I was one of these other agencies. So World Relief got shut down because they couldn't get any more grants from the government. And so ultimately, when the grants were just trickling down, I lost my job. I lost my job as a direct result of Trump becoming president. And I remember when I was dealing with HR and like my last few days or whatever, and they were like, "Oh, by the way, we will sign off on your unemployment or whatever if you want to go ahead and sign up right now, we'll help you, whatever, because you're not like losing this job because you were a terrible worker or we had to fire you or whatever. It's
Mm.
we just don't have any more money. So, but you know, sign up for unemployment. And I remember being a very proud and prideful person, coming from a long line of proud and prideful people, where when I heard that, I was just like, unemployment? Fuck that. I ain't getting no fucking unemployment. I'm not one of those people. I'm gonna go get another job or create a job or whatever. Like I'm not don't I'm like I was so like not necessarily like felt like I was slighted or something, but like when she said unemployment, like I felt in my mind like you think I'm one of them motherfuckers who get on unemployment? Like I'm not, whatever. So I never got on it. Like I started looking for jobs, started hustling, started creating my own job, started, doing whatever. And one day, a good friend of mine came over and he was just like, "Oh, so are you getting your unemployment, whatever?" And I was just like, "Nah, I'm not into that. I'm not getting that." And he's just like, "Why the fuck are you not getting that?" And I'm like, "That's just for lazy people, man. That's just for people who ain't trying to like do their thing. Like I'm trying to do my thing." And he's like, "No, you fucking moron. While you are working, you are paying into it. It's called unemployment insurance. And
Yes.
the money that you would get back is literally money that you worked and paid into this."
Right.
And at that point, I felt like a fucking idiot. I was like, wait, what?
That
Are you
shows
serious?
that shows how far this propaganda goes to the Reagan era welfare queen type of
Yeah,
shit that was coming out in the media. Really,
yeah,
it's an abusive level of manipulation that's been
yeah.
driven into this narrative that if you're on unemployment, that somehow you're
And
lazy and
I never looked into it, Beth, until he came and said to me,
yes,
and like he had to, because I still wasn't convinced. He had to tell me from his own experience. He's just like, "Hey, dude, a couple of years ago, I was working for a company and they went bankrupt. And they went under. We all of us lost our jobs, and I was on unemployment for like 8 months. And
yeah,
and this was a guy that like had a really good job in IT, a guy that I respect, a guy that I know,
yeah,
and I was just like, you were on unemployment? How the fuck you want unemployment? Like you're skilled. You're nice. I don't understand why you would
that's
do
the
that." And
thing.
he was just like, "No, idiot. Listen to me. You pay out of your paycheck every
Yes,
month into this." And so
yes,
I was just like, "I'm not believing you." So I went to Google and I looked it up and I was just like, "Oh fuck.
yes,
I could have
yes,
been getting money. I couldn't have been getting my money back this whole time."
yes, it takes time to find a job, and that's exactly what this is for. Is there is that time lag between when you lose your job and when you find a new one. If you're
Mm-hmm.
lucky, you might find a
And
new
that's a
one within a
great
couple of
system.
days. It is a great system. It was designed to give that cushion so that people didn't miss mortgage payments and childcare payments
Right,
and
right,
everything like
right.
that. They didn't starve simply because there's a few weeks of a lag or a few months of a lag in between losing a job and finding a new one.
Do you
And
know who came up with this or like who started this? Because that person need to
FDR,
get a round of applause.
FDR, 1935.
Oh,
Yep,
wow.
yep. And it was part of all that, the Social Security and all of that, because he recognized that it does not create a stable society if you have people starving simply because they're between jobs.
Hmm.
And that's exactly why we all pay into this. It's an insurance program. I don't know if you've seen. I can send you some pictures that we can pop up here. Some of these job postings that are jobs available out there, and these employers are writing up job
I've
descriptions,
seen
and
them.
they
Yeah.
have terrible grammar, they have poor spelling, and they use language that is implicitly biased, maybe racially biased or gender biased.
Yeah.
These are
I've
part of
seen a
the
few of
reasons.
those.
Yes, and these are part of this is one of many reasons why some people don't apply to an available job. Far be it from a potential employee to say this hiring manager can't spell check. That shows that they lack attention to detail. I don't want to work for somebody who lacks attention to
Yeah.
detail for something so important as a job posting. So, to my friends who have gone on social media recently and said, all these people on unemployment are lazy and they're selfish because they're not applying for the jobs that I'm that I'm putting out there or that my employer's
Yeah.
putting out there, please send me the job posting so I can proofread it, because I guarantee you there's something in there that's turning people away. And these businesses and the employees have to have that self-awareness to
Mm-hmm.
note that if nobody's applying for your job, maybe you're the problem. Maybe it's not
And
everybody else that's the
and
problem.
and that's the thing. Like, so we have a saying where I'm from that goes, "You have dry peas, you have to seek fire." And
Okay.
I don't think that these employers, I'm not going to tell you what it means. Like, you can figure out what it means. But it's like, you are the one with the job shortage, but you want to blame other people for why you haven't fixed your problem. Maybe you're not
Right.
seeking fire in the right place. Maybe you're not seeking fire in the right way. Maybe
Yes.
maybe the wages that you're offering are too low. Maybe the benefits that you are offering are not good enough. Maybe the working conditions, maybe, sorry, the people who are looking for jobs right now are just like, I want a job where I can be a part of a union. Your job isn't a part of a union.
Right.
I
Right.
don't know.
Exactly. And that's not everybody else's fault. And it's like these people, they're suggesting that they're entitled to somebody's labor. You're
Mm-hmm.
you're lucky to have people apply to your jobs. So act like it. Act like you're
Yeah.
lucky. Don't act like you're
Like,
entitled to somebody's time and energy. That is not okay to demand somebody's time just because you have a need for it.
and I think that's where the shift is going in America right now,
Yes.
where people, the general populace, are realizing their self-worth. Like, no, I
Hmm.
want breaks, and I want 2 weeks vacation, and I want healthcare, and I want benefits, and I want, wages that can pay my rent and my bills and whatever, and allow me to save $200 even at the end of the month. And if you're
Yeah.
not offering me that, I'm not interested in working for you. Not that I'm getting this unemployment check, which is mine, that I've paid into. Let's be completely clear and correct about
Right.
that. It's not welfare. It's not that the government's giving you a check. The federal government is attaching $300 onto that. Where do you think the
Yes.
fucking federal government gets money to attach things onto? Your fucking taxes.
Yes. Yeah. And I do want to say that there's a small number of people that are going to exploit the system, obviously. I mean,
Yeah.
look at the politicians exploiting their jobs right now. I mean, everybody given the opportunity, if they couldn't get caught, there might be something that we would say, yeah, I might exploit that. But
Mm-hmm.
they it's funny to me that conservatives will judge the entire group of people based on a small subset that might be exploiting this, but yet when it comes to guns and police violence, they don't want everybody to be judged based on the small number of people that do bad
Oh,
things.
the argument is a few bad apples. And it's like,
Right.
all right, well, in the welfare system, it's a few bad apples. In the unemployment, taking advantage of unemployment, it's a few bad apples. You're never gonna have a perfect system.
Never.
There's always gonna be a few bad apples. There's always gonna be somebody who's trying to like get one over on the
Sure.
government. And why the fuck should they not? The government's always getting one over on us.
That's what I'm saying. Yes. So I'm
So
sure
so I'll never
exploitation
hate on the
happens.
person who's getting one over on the government. Get it? Fuck you, man.
But
Like,
it's so few people
fuck
that
the
actually
government.
do. There's so few people that actually do, because it's very difficult to even get unemployment insurance in the first place. If
Yeah,
somebody's going to try to scam the government, they're not going to waste their time going through the unemployment system. There are some
Be-
people that know how
because
to
you
take
had to
advantage of
pay
this.
into it. There's no
Yes,
way
you
to
have to pay
scam it.
into it.
You have to
Exactly.
work and collect a check either every week or every month and pay into it for you to be able to get the money back. And
That's
I would
right.
also just like to point out, since my friend informed me that I should have been getting unemployment, I once signed up for that fucking shit and got my checks. But every week I had to show and prove that I had applied for jobs, I had interviewed for
Yes.
jobs, I had whatever, and I was either turned down or I turned them down and whatnot. And so it's not just you sit here and collect checks. And the number one thing I want to point out is the money can run out. This
Yeah.
is very important to understand about unemployment. Let's say you've worked 2 years. You have X amount of unemployment that you can collect per week up to a certain point. Let's say another person, a coworker in the same company that you worked there for 25 years. they have way more unemployment benefits than you do because they work more and work longer.
Yes.
So where your unemployment will run out in 4 months, theirs might not run out for 3 years. That's not scamming.
No, it's
That's
not.
because they work for 25 fucking years and you only work for 2.
It's insurance. The more you pay in, the more benefits you can get.
And I hope to God the people who are listening to this like understand what the propaganda is and what the truth is and the difference
That's
between
right.
the two. Because
You
I
gotta-
was one of the people who were victim of the propaganda. I sat there for 6 months trying my best, struggling to make ends meet, when my friend was just like, why are you not collecting this $300 whatever per week? And I was just like, nah, because my daddy raised me better than that. I'd be fucking like, what if I called home and he was just like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm collecting unemployment, and he'd just be disappointed. I'd lose my fucking mind. Like, I don't know. Like, but then when it was pointed out to me that, nah, dude, that's your money, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, this is how deep the propaganda runs. And that's exactly why these politicians are able to make very strategic decisions about legislation.
Yeah.
In the case of these states that are cutting the federal level, the extra federal money, the reason they're able to do that is because people believe the propaganda that you're not allowed to take unemployment insurance. Right, exactly. So let's talk about what you mentioned earlier. This is not a labor shortage, but it's a power shift. Can you go into that? Because I really want to talk about what's going on with the labor market and what's really going on with the labor market.
So we're coming out of COVID, right? Which was a disaster and is a disaster. It is a pandemic and it's terrible. And the issue is that businesses are now starting to open up now that we've got vaccine proliferation, and people are the rate of the death rate has slowed down, etc. And people are looking to get back to work. And as Americans, as I said before, we pride ourselves on working for the shit that we got. Nobody handed us anything. Nobody gave us anything. So people want to work. But there's this weird propaganda and just like talking point that's being circulated. People are not going back to work because they're sitting on unemployment, right? And that now and that's the source of what is called, everybody's calling, the labor shortage. Like, if you drive down any street, almost every business is, we're hiring. And yes, I get it. It's a labor shortage in certain industries. And the way that the propaganda is selling it is that it's like a nationwide labor shortage. And it's not. The truth is that there isn't a labor shortage. And I'll give you an example just from our home state, just from Ohio. When COVID started, just before COVID started, the employment rate in February of 2020, the unemployment rate was 4%. 4%. Only 4% of the people in the state of Ohio,
which is pretty amazing, by the way, because any economist will say, yes, full employment is somewhere around 5%. What has been the
dude? I thought it was higher. I thought it was in the teens. I was shocked.
No, the teens. No, unemployment in the teens is really bad. But back when I was learning economics 20 years ago in college, when I was studying this, they were saying 5% unemployment. I know, I am. 5% unemployment is considered full employment. Now I think they're going to have to readjust that, and they might be considering 4% to be full employment. But I mean, 4% is really good.
Today, this current day that we're doing this recording, the unemployment rate is 4.6%. And it's like, well, we're coming out of pandemic.
Yeah.
Honestly, the unemployment rate should be double and triple that. But it is literally a fraction of a percent of that. It's 4.6 now in May of 2021, as opposed to 4% of in February of 2020. So there's this big lie. I don't know if it's conservatives. I don't know if it's the government in general. I don't know if it's conservative or Republican governors that are propagating this. But there is not an unemployment shortage. There's an employment shortage in certain industries. A lot of industries where people felt that their value to the company or the value to the business was less than their returns, and that
Yes.
they were gaining.
And that used to be the goal of businesses back in the industrial era. They
Yeah,
would say we want our employees to be paid well enough that they can afford the product that they're making.
exactly. So you have people in China at Foxconn who are making iPhones who cannot afford iPhones. You have people who are working at Ferrari who cannot afford a fucking Ferrari.
Yeah.
So your value to the company is way higher than what you're being paid. And then you of what you're being paid, you have to pay taxes out of that. And you have to pay into Social Security. You have to pay whatever. Like all of these people, the people who work at Pfizer, the people who work at CNN, or the people who work at whatever, when like let's just use CNN as an example. To pay for a commercial on CNN is something like $12 million per minute.
Yeah.
But you work at CNN. You're the person that makes sure the commercial gets on the air. Can you afford to put a commercial on CNN? No, you don't have $12 million. And that's where the dichotomy, the problem is, where Americans are looking at things like, oh, we have a labor shortage. It's like, no, it's not. You have a labor shortage in your industry. While
Yes.
the pandemic was going on, people found other jobs. People
Yes.
created their own jobs. People who could do nails put out on Facebook, I'm doing nails in my living room.
Yeah. People
People
started
who
their
could
own
do hair,
businesses.
yes. People who could do hair was just like, I'm doing hair in my living room.
Yeah.
People, had their own lawn care business. People had their own whatever you could think of. People started innovating because they're like, Americans, as I said before, don't lay down. They were just like, it's coming close to rent time and I don't have the rent money. I got to go do something. And then
Right.
after 12 months of doing these things and staying afloat, and not only staying afloat, you had people who started things thinking that they were going to do it to stay afloat and realized that they were thriving. Like, now I can
Yes.
take my family on vacation. Now I
Yeah.
can I can buy actually a better car. I can whatever. So why the fuck would I go back to working at Geno's or
Mm-hmm.
wherever was paying me $7.25, or if you're in the service industry, $3 or $2.50, and then you got to scrape people's money off the table depending on how they thought that your service was.
Yep.
Now you're doing hair and nails in your kitchen. Now you're doing drywall, you're framing, you're doing carpentry, you're doing all these things, and you're realizing, had I done these things before, I could have been affording myself and my family the things that I wanted. So why the fuck would I go back there? Because if the employment rate pre-COVID was 4% and now it's 4.6%, it's not that people are unemployed. It's people aren't employed in what the fuck you want them to do.
And also, the unemployment rate isn't just people who don't have a job, it's people who don't have a job that want a job. So the
Right.
unemployment rate may just be a smidge higher because some of the people who had a job before are not even looking anymore. They don't want a
They're
job.
not. They're not.
So they're not part of the unemployment numbers anymore.
And the people who are listening to this, people who've been affected by this pandemic and turned to their own self as a resource and now have decided that, yo, I can make $3,000 off a month based on my talent, based on my skill, and I don't want to go back to Chase or Nationwide or Amazon or whatever.
Yeah,
And now
exactly.
now now they've presented themselves as a bargaining chip, where it's like,
Yes,
if you want me to work at your place, you need to pay me more than the side gig that I had that I turned into my main gig.
that's right.
That is the truth of the labor shortage.
Yes. And going back to these people, these employers who are putting out job postings and getting pissed off that nobody's
Mm-hmm.
applying for them, part of it is making sure you got good grammar in your job posting. Part of it is
Yeah.
making sure that you're not racially biased or, gender biased or anything like that. But also, what are you offering? Are you offering the benefits that people want? If you're not, you can't blame somebody else for not offering that stuff. You have to be, there has to be some self reflection, but also some market research. Research what it is that these employees would want to have. That's not somebody else's problem. That's not somebody else's job to do that. If you want to hire employees, you got to put in the footwork, you got to put in the research to know what those employees are going to want.
I saw a post recently that was saying Burger King was hiring, and they were saying to the parents, "Hey parents, if you have a teenager who's 14, 15, 16 years old who wants a job, we will hire them. Please take an application to them." And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'm literally just looking at America like, yo, this is where we are in our labor evolution, where companies are begging you to send your child into child labor.
There's a reason that we shouldn't be here. It's because we already went through this before. There's a
We
reason we have
did in the
child labor
fucking
laws.
20s.
Oh, before that, in the 1880s, the Gilded Age. Anybody listening right now, go Google it. The Gilded Age. It is exactly what we're going through here again. And we don't want to make
Yeah.
the same mistakes. You got to protect yourself, protect your children, protect your worth, know your value, and do not take jobs just because they're available, unless maybe
Yeah.
you're okay with that. But don't feel like you're being forced into a job simply because it's available. And for any of
Hmm.
you who think that everybody should just take whatever's available, please stop. Please stop doing that. It's not
So
right. It's not right to force people into labor that they're not willing to consent to.
or comfortable. Cutting off of the unemployment benefits. Wait, I said that wrong. And I'm going to leave this in. The cutting off of the unemployment insurance.
There you go.
Yeah, I know I'm doing it right, right?
Yes, you
The
are.
cutting off of the unemployment insurance is apparently, according to research and people who've studied, economics and sociology and socioeconomics, is that it's going to affect women far more than men, because a lot of men were in jobs that were blue or green collar jobs when the pandemic hit, and resorted to those jobs where the woman had to, for obvious societal reasons, leave their jobs to stay at home, to be a stay at home mom, because the kids are now staying at home because they have to do virtual learning or online learning or whatever. And so when the unemployment additional benefits of $300 gets cut, as they are doing in 18 states, as Beth earlier pointed out, um, is going to disproportionately affect women way more than it affects men, because they're going to lose, what would that be, $1,200 per month, because not only are they staying home and have lost their jobs, but if they were to go back to the jobs in the summer, they now have to consider childcare for the kids that they were staying home to provide for and protect and care for.
Yes.
And that's a huge issue where all these talking points are being thrown around. A lot people aren't considering that like, yo, one of the most vulnerable sex, or the more vulnerable half of our society, women, are going to be adversely affected, because now you're cutting off their benefits to try to send them back to work. But what are the 5-year-old kids just gonna stay at home while both parents go to work?
Well, I have to ask the obvious question. Why is
Mm.
it in the year 2021 that women are still the expected person to stay at home with the kids? It's unacceptable to me that this would be disproportionately affecting women, because I find it unacceptable that when push comes to shove, that the woman always has to be the one to stay at home with the children. That shit drives me crazy. So I just find it very maddening, and I'm frustrated when I know that this is not this should be a decision for every family. And if a woman
Mm-hmm.
wants to stay home with her children, absolutely do it.
Yeah.
But I have had my friends reach out to me over the past year during this pandemic, and the women were venting to me about how they were always the one expected to step back from their job, and they didn't consent to that. That's just how it was. And I feel for them, and my heart breaks for them, because when it came down to it, a lot of the as you said, the societal pressure is
Yeah.
the man's not going to stay home, because then he would, I don't know, feel, I don't know. Men have to explain this to me. Why it's such a, why is it a hit to the ego?
If I were wed to somebody who makes more money than me, I don't know what the conversation would be to try to convince her to step down from her job and stay with the kids while I go out and continue to do the job that brings in less money. Now,
Correct.
I know for a fact that that conversation happens, and the end result of the conversation is that the man goes out to his job and the woman has to stay home.
Yeah.
I don't know what the words would be that would facilitate that kind of a result, and I also would never want to be with the woman that would be convinced to do that. That is the dumbest thing I have ever heard in my fucking life. Like, listen, you make X plus 3 and I make X. Hey, quit your job so that I can feel okay with my fucking ego.
It doesn't
Like,
make, it's, I don't know. Is it ego? Is it just, do they feel like less of a man in front of their coworkers? I don't know what it is. I'm not in that position because I don't have children. My husband and I don't have children, so I can't say for sure what that conversation
yeah.
would be. But I do know for a fact that a significant number of my female friends reached out to me over the past year and said, this is really hard for me because I feel like I can't keep my job.
Well,
It's very,
were these female friends making equal or more than their male counterparts?
I do not know. And I think it's a mixture if I were to ask them that question, because I don't think it's right to pry into people's salary, even if, if
Yeah.
it's somebody I've known for
But
a
you know
long
what
time.
though? You know
But
what
I
though?
don't
I think
think,
we're
I don't
shifting to
know.
that, Beth. We're shifting to that. We're shifting to where people talk about goddamn salary. Who
Yes.
made it taboo to talk about fucking salary? You know who?
Probably,
Employers.
yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Because,
it wasn't because why
yes.
not? Why can't I have a conversation with you where it says I'm a brick mason and I work for so and so's masonry and I make $23 an hour, and then you could be like, wait a minute, that's fucked up. My cousin's
Yes.
a brick mason and he works for so and so's company and he makes $32 an hour. Why are you making a whole $10 less than him? And now we can be like, so now I get to go back to my boss and be like, hey, what's going on with these people making way
Right.
like a third more than I make? Do you not value my thing? And that's the thing. It all comes back. This whole conversation comes back to what value do you bring to the company? If you
That's
are
right.
making the company billions of dollars, you should at least be making millions of dollars. If you are
Correct.
making the company thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, you should be making at least tens of thousands of dollars. Now, I get it. Companies have to make profit. They have to have their overhead. They have to have all of these things taken care of, insurance and otherwise. But like when you are working for pennies and a company is making hundreds of billions,
Mm-hmm.
listen, Staney's here to tell you, don't go back to that fucking job. Look know what you're worth. Know what you're
Yes.
worth. I support whatever. And you know what the cool thing about this labor movement is? There was no meeting. There was no
Yes.
there was no everybody getting together and saying,
It's,
everybody individually looked at this shit and it was like, okay, well, while in the pandemic, I survived by doing this.
right.
Why the fuck would I go back to that?
It's completely organic that this is
Yeah,
happening.
there was
And we
not a
should,
collective.
and that's why I think that this podcast episode is very timely, because people need to recognize that they should
Mm-hmm.
feel empowered to know their worth and to stand up for their worth. even
Yeah.
as it relates to the women who have had to make a decision to stay home with their children versus their husband staying home with their
I
children.
completely
Know your
support it.
worth. Yes,
I
know your
completely
worth.
support it.
If it
Know your
is the
fucking
right
worth.
thing, if it is the right thing to do for the woman to stay home, have at it. But make sure that there's consent involved in that conversation, and it's going to be uncomfortable for sure. But I think this is a self-fulfilling prophecy that a lot of companies pay women less because they do take time off to take care of their children. And
Yeah.
then women don't feel empowered to stand up for their worth when it comes to because maybe a lot,
Negotiating and
maybe yes, and well, maybe a lot of these parents were in a situation where the husband does make more than the wife because of the fact that she took time off to even have the children in the first place. So it's
ah
a self fulfilling prophecy that the woman's always going to have to take a step back in that situation because she can't make enough as her or as much as her husband because she's been taking the time off for the children.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
this all comes back to knowing your worth and knowing your value and standing up for that. And I think that this organic movement in the labor shift is something that we should all participate in and champion one another. And for the men that are listening, I'm not trying to hate on men right now. This is not about that. But if you need to know your worth too, I'm there to champion you as well. This is not about gender roles. This is not about
Yo,
any of that stuff.
people,
This is about
stop taking ten
everybody.
dollars an hour. Stop taking $10 an hour for a company that will report a first or second quarter earnings of fucking $8.2 billion. Stop. Don't fucking go. No, I support you, yo. Don't
Yeah.
go back. Fuck
Hmm.
them. Don't go back.
Know your
Make
worth.
this make a change. See, Congress didn't want to. Matter of fact, the Republicans in Congress didn't want to champion your cause of getting a minimum wage of $15. Here's how you make sure that happens. Don't sell yourself short. If you have to hustle, if you have to chop firewood, if you have to fucking carry cement blocks or whatever to make the same or more money than you would make at the shit job that you had, don't fucking go back. Listen, I get it. You every in America, our insurance or health insurance is tied to our employment. I get it. It's a tough situation, but we are all on the cusp of changing labor to where the company has to impress us for us to want to go. You are worth something. I don't care if you have a college degree. I don't care if you don't have a college degree or whatever. If you have spent 30 years of your life and you learn something, you learn a craft, you learn how to edit internet videos, you learn how to do plumbing, you learn how to, you know, lay cement or pour cement or tie steel or whatever. Do those fucking things and not have a company tell you that you can make only $8 while they make $1 billion in the first quarter so
Hmm.
that you can get insurance.
That's right.
If we all together get together and just these businesses, look, there's no reason in America or on the planet why just because you open a business it has to succeed. Just
Exactly.
think about that for a second. Like,
Yes.
businesses fail all the time because poor business model, poor marketing,
Poor
poor
management.
poor management, poor products, poor whatever. It is
Yes.
not your job as the employee to make sure that the business succeeds so that you can keep your job. It is your job to fucking get paid. I'm a total advocate of that.
Yep.
Know your worth. Charge people what you're worth. Fuck it, charge them extra. People got money. Ask Kanye. Charge them extra.
We didn't talk about the boomers and retirement and all that kind of stuff.
I may have mentioned it. I may have not. But let me just say
You
that
did
a
not.
lot of
You
the
did
people
not.
I
I'm
did
the
not.
sober
Okay,
one. You did not.
fine. A lot of the people who are not going back to work are boomers who have realized that it would just be better for them to just retire early. Like
Hmm.
spending 5 years at more years at this company is not going to increase my pension any amount significantly or whatever. And through the pandemic, they were just like, okay, I'm fucking done, whatever. But also a lot of people are changing industries. where they don't want to be a waitress anymore. They don't want to be a cashier at Winn-Dixie or Publix or Kroger or Food Lion.
Mm-hmm.
I think I covered the entire East Coast with those.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't want to be a cashier in those places anymore. They want to
Yeah.
go back to school. They want to go do a trade. They want to go market
Mm-hmm.
themselves. Maybe those people who were doing those things were good landscapers, or they could do hair, or they could do, nails, or they could sew, or they could make a dress, or they could be a seamstress, or they could be a cobbler and do shoe repair, or they could do whatever. A lot of people realize that this dead end job that I was in with no upward mobility is bullshit, because when a pandemic hits, I'm the first to get chopped. I'm dispensable. So let me go make myself more useful to myself.
Well, can we also say how egregious it was that the people who got paid the least, the frontline workers, such as the people working at Kroger, people working at Food
Yeah.
Lion, they got paid the least, but they were considered essential.
They were essential
And
because
well,
we
and
needed
they
them.
hold on, but I mean, we all know that they were essential,
Yeah.
but the companies finally recognized them as being essential. But did they get a
Yeah.
pay increase?
No,
No,
they didn't.
they did
Is
not.
it? It was
And
like,
now that the
oh my
pandemic
god,
is starting
they
to
got a pizza
wind
party.
down, yeah, right. And now that the pandemic is starting to wind down, there's still no conversation about how valuable those people are to all of us and how
Yeah.
grateful we are to them. Their employers are not seeing it that same way. They're like, yes,
And
you were essential, but now we're back to normal again. So, hey, thanks for being here.
this is
It's
exactly
awful.
why we have this crazy propaganda perceived labor shortage, because it's like the people who realize that they were essential to society but not being paid as essential to society are not going back to essential work. And I
Correct. Why
applaud
should
you
they?
people. Know your
Yeah.
fucking worth. Fuck that. Like, the best compliment you could give a person who is working at your job is payment.
Yes.
Nothing else. Not a pizza party, not a fucking trip, not a whatever. If you want to show your, as an employer, and I employ people for one of my jobs. They're all contract workers or whatever. And they'll tell you I employ them that they're fine. I give them close a lot more than the state going average for
Yes.
hourly work, and I provide lunch and I provide snacks and whatever. So I don't have a worker who's ever worked for me who was just like, nah, I don't fucking like that guy. Every single person who they call me like, yo, you ain't got no work, can I come? Like, what's going on? That's what you want as an employer. Not these
Mm-hmm.
signs posted up on your fucking business telling the general public that your company is shit, that your product is shit. That's not what you want.
Right.
Like, I'll make a lot of money on this contract, and I'll, like, the people who work with me, one or two or three, will make a quarter to a third of the money from that contract,
Yeah, you
because
share the
I
wealth.
exactly, I don't look at it like I gotta make 98%. Really? Like, why do I have to make all of that, man?
Right.
Like, my kids are in school. Like, I'm fed. I'm warm. I wear nice clothes. I don't understand like why I need. Like, is that gonna get me closer to the fucking 25-foot, 30-foot yacht? That
Well, it's because
$200 is not gonna do it.
you understand that without loyal employees, your business will fail. So you're making the wise investment of investing in your employees so that they will be
Yeah.
loyal to you and stay. And hey, even if one of them has to leave for whatever reason, they might recommend a friend to come replace them
Yep.
at your
I
business.
I have
That's what
never
it's
had a
about.
person in 3 years of me running my own business. I've never had a person go, the pay is shit.
Right.
That's
Right.
never happened. I've never had a conversation about that, because I say what I'm willing to offer as payment for, whether it's a day's work or hourly or whatever, and they agree to it, and they get that and extra as much as I can give to an independent contractor.
Yeah.
Obviously I can't provide them health care, but
Right.
it is what it is.
Right.
But holy shit. Anyways, do you have more to say, Beth?
Well, I do want to say that we're going to have some bonus content where I do have a couple things to say, but we're going to make that over on Patreon. So, if you are not already a patron, come join us over there so you can see what else I have
Yeah.
to say
We
about
have a lot of
unemployment.
raunchy footage on Patreon, especially last
So,
week. That was hella.
uh,
I was drunk when I was doing the content, and then I
yeah.
realized when I was sober, I was just like, I didn't want to say half of the things I said. Just,
Yes, a lot of times
just
we take these extra segments or the funny shit and we just put it up on Patreon. So if you want to see more,
yeah,
head on over there.
and it
But you can,
happens at the end of the show, so we're
yes,
already fucking drunk as shit,
yeah. Well, you are this week. You are really drunk right now.
among other things.
Okay, so I will tell everybody where else they can find us aside from
Yeah.
Patreon. You can find us on Twitch at Mixed Politics. You can also find us on YouTube. That may be where you're watching right now. If you are, be sure to subscribe and hit the like button, share the video. Facebook and Instagram, you can find us at mixed.politics. On Twitter, we are at mixedpolitics1. You can also send us an email with questions, comments, show ideas, anything you got to say at mixedpoliticspod@gmail.com. So be sure to subscribe to our audio podcast as well. Wherever you listen to your podcast, give us a rating. Be sure to leave
Amazon
us 5
Music.
stars.
That's my jam. That's where I go to see this podcast.
There you go. All right. So we do have a Patreon. We'll just kind of keep this short that we have extra footage over there. We've got tiers where you can have all kinds of merch. You can just get extra perks like having dinner with us. And I mean, just go check it out. Be sure to become a patron so you can see all the fun stuff behind the scenes.
She's so great. She's like, hey, people who are watching or listening, she's recognized that I am 17 she's to the wind, and she just fucking took my dialogue, which is
I know.
fine.
I hope you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. I get it. You know what? I got a secret to tell you. As soon as we quit, we press stop recording. And you're gonna be like, yeah,
do I do.
No, it's a massive secret. And when you hear it, you're gonna be like, wait, what the fuck?
Oh, so yeah. Now everybody's gonna have to go to Patreon.
If they want to know.
Okay.
You ready?
To all of our analysts, pundits, and experts, cheers.
Mm-hmm. Cheers. All right. Have a good one.
And that's a wrap.
So, Beth, you ready
Yes.
for this massive secret?